A very warm good evening to one and all. Welcome back to the today's session. Today we have our guest speaker, Dr. Roja Varanasi, ma'am, research officer, homeopathy, scientist 4 from Central Council of Research in Homeopathy, associate editor IJRH from CCRH, complementary medicine research. We welcome you, ma'am. We welcome you all the participants. So today's topic will be regarding the clinical trials in homeopathy. So let us have a small introduction regarding ma'am. So, Dr. Roja Varanasi ma'am is a dedicated homeopathic researcher with a strong focus on clinical research in non-communicable diseases. She completed BHMS and MD homeopathy from Abhinchandra Homeopathy Medical College and Hospital, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, and is also currently pursuing PhD in Public Health from Amity University, Noida. Dr. Varanasi ma'am has also served as co-nodal officer for the integrated NPCDCS AYUSH Homeopathy Project, a collaborative initiative of Central Council for Research in Homeopathy CCRH and Ministry of Health and Welfare. Well, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Ma'am has also played a key role in the development of standard treatment guidelines in homeopathy, the system procedure, homeopathy, science of gentle healing. We welcome you, ma'am. We welcome you, all the participants. And I would like to take on a note that in recognition of ma'am outstanding contribution, ma'am has also received Young Scientist Award in clinical research in 2018 from CCRH. So thank you, ma'am. And today we'll be glad you to be on the board. Session is all yours, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your warm introduction. Uh, and thank you also to the organizers for inviting me for a talk on clinical trials in homeopathy. Shall I start?
Absolutely, ma'am.
I'm audible loud and clear.
Yes, ma'am. Up
Okay.
loud and clear audible है. जी,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you so much once again for this important session, clinical trials in homeopathy. See, we are 3 lakh homeopathic practitioners in India, and we contribute to the success of homeopathy in India and making India as a clinical hub of homeopathy for the world. But for everything, we stand on the giants of the shoulders. In every science, this is there, and it is also equivalent to homeopathy because homeopathy is a science and art of which has been invented, discovered by the father of homeopathy, Christian Frederick Samuel Hahnemann, 200 years back. And thus, there are so many stalwarts who contributed in the progress of homeopathy, though it is plausibility, though its clinical effectiveness, though its success rate in medical practice. So, everyone has contributed because of its ultra dynamic medicines, which are successed and potentized. There is always a challenge in front of the scientific fraternity how these medicines are acting. So, for this, although we have many success stories by the stalwarts who were all belonging to the modern system of medicine, but still, because of challenges, we have to go on doing research, research, one and again to prove and to improve homeopathy and keep ourselves in tandem and intangible with the modern outcome parameters or modern system of medicine. So, because as I told you, we are standing on shoulders of giants, and as a researcher or as a practitioner, we should know the history because history is very important. And from school days or in colleges, whatever subject we study, sorry, we study the history. Why we remember Newton? Why we remember Albert Einstein? Because they're historical persons. Why we remember Stephen Hawking? So everyone has contributed to the science. Similarly, in homeopathy also, we are doing currently, but our ancestors or the forefathers, they have also contributed similarly to the science, and that should be known to one and all, so that in any platform wherever we interact, it should be easily and with confidence we can tell, yes, there is a history, there are trials, and the uh, karma chal raha hai, and it is continuing. And CCH being apex body for undertaking research in homeopathy, yes, it has the under Ministry of Ayush. It shoulders all the things, no doubt. Every homeopath, every research counts, but the being apex organization, it has more onus to do research in homeopathy. To begin, so this is to start with. Next slide. This is the history. If you see the slide, in 1796, Hahnemann discovered homeopathy, essays on a new principle for ascertaining the curative powers of drugs, which was followed in 1810 by his famous work, The Organ of Healing Art. If you see at the right, there is the cinchona bark, the cinchona plant, which was the base for Hahnemann to discover homeopathy and law of similars. So with experiments, because homeopathy is an experimental science, and from these experiments only homeopathy has been established. If we look towards research developments in homeopathy, the prophylactic power of belladonna against scarlet fever, Dufresne clearly told, yes, because of the prophylactic powers of belladonna, it prevented scarlet fever, and it was published in a journal after much debate, after much saying by Hahnemann, Dufresne and Dufresne journal. It was published thereafter. The Lancet, they try to establish that the proper use of belladonna has, in most cases, prevented infection, even in those instances whereby the continuous intercourse with patients laboring under scarlet fever, the predisposition toward it was greatly increased. Numerous observations have shown that by the general use of belladonna, epidemics of scarlet fever have actually been arrested. So this is in 1829, 2nd May, where Lancet published this, and they have told that homeopathy or the belladonna has a power to curtail the scarlet fever or prevent the scarlet fever. There comes after that from the James Dean Library, they also emphasize that the proper use of belladonna has in most cases prevented infection, even in those instances whereby the continuous intercourse, the same thing which has been mentioned in the Lancet. So in this way, initial control trials were done to test that homeopathy is efficacious, and the principles lying behind homeopathy is uh, well established law, that is law of similia similibus curantur. But still, the thing has to go on to retest and to see that whether it is applicable to all other medicines in homeopathy. They did a randomized the researchers like Stolberg did a randomized double-blind control trial, or the Nuremberg salt test of 1835. They developed a protocol carefully set out, and the detailed study were made public in advance. The number of participants were relatively large, and the differences between the two groups would have been significant if data had been right. Assigned to one group or the other was apparently perfectly randomized. A control group received only placebo was used. The trial was double blind. However, what happened is this trial came out to be negative. So what happened from this led to negative, but they try to re-establish it because of methodological flaws, whatever it is. They told that that this uh, natriumur, a very example, uh, that this trial is not very successful, and they question the very support of homeopathy in terms of its study design and the uniqueness of this homeopathic system. However, there followed the cholera. The homeopathic management of cholera in 19th century with special reference to the epidemic in London 1854. This was not a purely a trial, that is clinical trial or randomized control trial, but they did a comparison. This is historical, which I am trying to emphasize because we are talking of clinical trials in homeopathy. So in this, during the 19th century, homeopaths claimed better results than their conventional colleagues did for the treatment of epidemic cholera. Those of the London Homeopathic Hospital in 1854 have put forward for 150 years as evidence of the efficacy of homeopathy. The evidence examined in this paper failed to implicit exhaustive allopathic treatment must have contributed considerably to the homeopathic success. However, it appears probably that the homeopathic remedies themselves played an active part in successful treatment of cholera cases. So thereby, this is a historical thing which showcases that cholera cases and deaths in London could be curtailed because of homeopathic medicines as per the data compared with homeopathic hospital and allopathic hospitals. So this is the difference because homeopathy success came from the very success of its role in epidemics. If you see the history from 1799 to 1918, there were several small big epidemics where the homeopathy was compared with allopathy, like scarlet fever, cholera, in different years, typhus fever 1847, pneumonia in mid 1800s, yellow fever, now cholera 1854. So these are the various epidemics which enforces or best envisages that the mortality was very less in homeopathy group when compared to the allopathy group. So the how the research has developed, if you see so many historical slides in the last 2 to 3 slides, it's all experimental. First, the um, uh, the homeopathy discovered itself is experimentally. Then the previous slide which I have shown enforces or focuses on observational studies and comparative studies between homeopathic hospitals and allopathic hospitals. Then the comparison with allopathy. Then placebo-controlled phase 1 trials and practice, then adoption of biomedical research perspective. So this is the channel or chain of events which happen since the birth of homeopathy till 1953. So how the development occurred? This is again the internal history of homeopathy, then evaluation of the external judgments made on homeopathy, then historiography of the clinical trials, and the reciprocal relationship between homeopathy and the growth of scientific clinical evaluation. So, in this way, research has developed, and this is again going on, so on and so forth. Thus, in 19th century, homeopathy spread in the world, and people began to accept it as a bankable system of healing. In India too, homeopathy entered through some Christian missionaries, and in 20th century, spread of homeopathy got checked due to skepticism. Contrarily, in India, homeopathy grew with much greater vigor, and in 24th century, the world evolved towards alternative therapies, but also questioned the elements of science in homeopathy. So, why it has been questioned? Because of many aspects. There are several challenges like philosophical point of view, medicine point of view, capacity building, like scarcity of think tank, skilled manpower, networking, and research literature. So there are various challenges. If you see the red lines, like demonstration of similar principle on scientific background, scientific plausibility of mechanisms, placebo effects, choosing the right remedy, because we all know homeopathy is not only science but is equally an art, and art is more into homeopathy because the mind, body, matter, everything is included when we prescribe a homeopathic medicine. Secondly, from medicine point of view, accurate dose, perfect potency, frequency, repetition. I may prescribe one type of dosing. You may prescribe other type of dosing. The potency, I may prescribe low potency. You may prescribe high potency. In this way, there are a lot of variations, and these variables impact the outcomes of homeopathic treatment. Thirdly, the scarcity of think tank skill manpower. Because if we see the evolution of homeopathy after Hahnemann, after the stalwarts at that point of time, there is no much advancement in the field of homeopathy. After Hahnemann published posthumously the sixth edition of Organ of Medicine, there is no more Organ of Medicine revised. So the science has stuck at that point of time. So because of not rigorous scientific investigations, there is also a scarcity in this area. Lack of interdisciplinary exposure to work done by other scientists, networking and research literature, limited availability of research literature at library, colleges, institutions, lack of interaction between faculty, researchers on some common topics, limited use of research literature already available, and small number of groups who interact electronically for discussing research topics. So these are the various challenges which we face if we see the history and also the current scenario. So research in homeopathy again, the challenges. Now coming to prophylactic trial, it's okay. There is one medicine we use, we declare, we have seen, we have faced COVID-19 where arsenic album was given across the country, also outside the country, and it has come out to be successful, like uh, cholera, scarlet fever. These are the various epidemics where, as per the genus epidemicus dictum, these were successful. But there are other types of homeopathy which is given complex complexes like trauma heal, canova. These all are given. Clinical specifics by Grizzly, tissue salts, pathological seminum, isoprophylaxis, constitutional psychology, physical journals of Bonninghausen, chronic miasms, nosodes of Edding, mental journals of Kent. It comes to individual perspective again. Symptom complex of Hahnemann, keynotes by Allen, isopathy by Herring, tautopathy by Herring. So the semiology, nosology, physiology, pathology, etiology, the different aspects, organ remedies, tissue remedies, drainage remedies. So these all pose a challenge for research in homeopathy. Because if we talk of clinical trials, it is never ending. There are so many trials being done, small, big, in India, across India, outside India. But uh, speaking and discussing in each and every trial may be beyond the scope of this platform. So I'm just trying to pose on you what can be done. These are the various challenges which we can foresee here. So, as a homeopath, can we overcome these challenges? Can we come out of this black box? Can we have suitable solution? That has to be thought and pondered upon. So, therefore, there is a need for research in homeopathy. Times have changed, public is informed, Questions asked conventional system, biomedical system, policy makers. In the past, homeopathy has been a preferred target of various authorities and skeptics. So there is a need for research in homeopathy. There is a global criticism from like NHS, NHRC. There are so many groups of people who are campaigning against homeopathy. But are we ready to face this? Can we do this? Can we have suitable solution to this? So there comes another global criticism. The NHS, they have had a campaign in the year 2023, 2010. That is 10 to the power 23. Homeopathy, there is nothing in it, which is a, we all know, beyond Avogadro number, homeopathy is acting. But can we uh, satisfy the skeptics? Can we have suitable answers scientifically? So this is a mega question. So these are the global criticism which occurs. Yet further, this is again some of the newspapers. They say yes to pluralistic health system but no to homeopathy because of like extreme dilution and dematerialized spiritual force among other homeopathy originated in late 18th century. So these are the some questions being posed. The other questions are: do ultra high dilution products effects? Is it effective in a particular condition? Is homeopathic remedy more effective than placebo? What should be the place of homeopathy in public healthcare system? Can homeopathy be effective in diseases where modern medicine has no answers? So, what is your say on it? Can we have answers to these questions? Can we face the global criticism? So, we need to act upon this in a collective way, in a team manner, so that we can have suitable solution through research, through discussions, through think tank groups also. Therefore, the question posed here is clinical research necessary? Why it is necessary? To know how good are our medicine techniques and equipments and how bad are our medicine techniques and equipments. This is the sole motto of clinical research. The purpose, the sole purpose behind doing a clinical research or a clinical trial. And further, we need to be in tandem with modern medicine, modern scientific methodology, and to fit into the gradation of modern scientific methodology, the level of evidences. If you see the hierarchy of evidence from the pyramid is systematic reviews. This is highest level of evidence, which is based upon randomized control trials. Because a pooling of the randomized control trials, based on the pooling of randomized control trials, we can have systematic reviews. But and these systematic reviews give us or give the scientific fraternity a strong message that yes, homeopathy is active or it is not active, whether it is a placebo, whether it's a true intervention. However, there are other type of designs which also help in contributing the scientific base for the action of homeopathic medicines, like controlled clinical trials and observation studies, uncontrolled observation studies, case reports and case series, and expert opinions like the textbooks, the grey literature, which is already available in homeopathy. So, however, among these, randomized controlled trials are considered the gold standard because there are group comparisons and the groups are selected based on presence or absence of a disease. Whereas the core studies, this can be prospective or retrospective. The groups are selected based on presence or absence of exposure to the treatment, health risks, etc. So these are different levels of evidence which is being generated. So what we are doing, we are still stepping up and up to see if we need or we gather the evidence. Now coming to another very old paper, is homeopathy scientific? a reassessment in the light of Karl Popper's theory of scientific knowledge. So he is posing a question. Homeopathy today has reached a critical point in its evolution. It is always under attack from the orthodox medical community. At the same time, it has probably to a greater extent than ever before in its history the opportunity of establishing itself as a valid alternative to conventional drug therapy. There are several reasons for this. What are the reasons? The general public is showing an increasing interest in orthodox form of medicine, including homeopathy. Doctors too. So he is telling about the benefits. Why? Because doctors were becoming increasingly worried about the dangers of modern drugs, and many of them are inclined to look more sympathetically than previously at the alternative forms of therapy that are claimed to be safer than conventional medicines. So these are the trends that favor homeopathy, but we also need to generate more evidence to this proving of homeopathy is scientific. So randomized controlled trials are the hallmark evidence-based medicine and form the basis of translating research data into clinical practice, which also emphasizes that uh, when homeopathy is prescribed and assessed as per the modern scientific parameters, the establishing the action of homeopathy is truly meaningful or the outcomes can be in tandem with the modern scientific parameters. So, informing all this, I want to emphasize here about the randomized control trials because we are speaking of clinical trials in homeopathy. So the use of why we are using randomized control trials as a gold standard because we are always testing the homeopathy or a drug prepared in homeopathic way against a placebo or against an active drug. So this type of study designs prevent biasness and also uh, take care of the various confounding factors which knowingly or unknowingly uh, interferes with the action of the medicine. So, because these trial designs may be beyond the scope of this platform today, but I want to emphasize on you here what are the randomized control trials to give you brief information. The basic things why randomization. It is a method where we allocate the intervention equally between the two groups or three groups as per the study design. This strengthens the study design. A well implemented randomization procedure is expected to result in two groups that comparably overall when both measured and unmeasured factors are taken into account. Thus, theoretically, the two groups differ only in the intervention received, and any difference in outcomes between them is thus related to the effect of the intervention. The comparators may be concurrent control or comparator groups. So this is a highest form of study design which we do in any type of system of medicine or any method of treatment. The advantages, as I told you, the biases are less. They are being tested through statistical tests, series of statistical tests, and experiments provide strong evidence of causal effect. It has strong external validity and also to some extent internal. It has strong external validity if it is a pragmatic trial, or it has internal validity if it is done in an ideal setting. So this is a slide which I want to show here how we are doing what we are doing. If we are doing efforts with wrong tool, there will be no results. But if you are doing efforts with right tool, there will be results. So these are the various steps to conduct RCTs. We have to set the protocol, select the sample, do the randomization, do the intervention, follow up, and assessment. This is the project plan. And to do a research question, For RCT, we need to have these following criteria which should be fixed or should be kept in mind. That is, of the study or the research question should be feasible, it should be interesting, it should be novel, it should be ethical, and it should be relevant. This I am showing this here to understand future the slides ahead, and also the PICO, that is the patient population problem intervention, and also comparison and outcome. Doctor, I'm just give me 1 minute. I'm coming back. Okay.
So, meanwhile, there are different doctors. Can you introduce yourself and you're from which state? Satish ji, can you tell about yourself? Meanwhile, ma'am is coming. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Kirti Madhukar, and I have a 16 years of experience in homeopathy. I did my BHMS from Government Homeopathic Medical College, Bhopal. And before I got my homeopathy, I also did my DNHE, and currently I'm pursuing my MSc in diet and nutrition from IGNO. I also did my MBA in HR and marketing from NIT Bhopal with honors. And this was my brief introduction. Yeah. And currently I'm staying in Bangalore. I have worked with Dr. Batra. So any doctor would like to introduce themselves. Meanwhile, ma'am comes.
Dr.
Any
Shruti sir,
any issue with the technical issue, ma'am, from the ma'am side?
no technical issue, technical issue.
हुआ क्या है सर?
कुछ नहीं है, just thought
Sorry for
आपके
that.
yes,
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Am I audible?
yes ma'am audible.
जी मैम.
Please continue.
So, because being a clinician, how many of you are clinicians here and how many of you are researchers? May I know? Can anybody speak? The
So,
organizers may inform me.
ma'am, my name is Dr. Kirti and I'm a physician.
Yes.
Ma'am, I am Kingshu Goswami. I am practicing in Kolkata.
Okay. Because when we are practitioners, we have least interest in research. Am I right? Am I right or
Yes,
am I wrong?
yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
We want success rate, right? Whatever may be the research, it is immaterial. But yes, organizers like you with young brains, you also should know about the research. And for knowing the research, you need to know these all things. The basic things you should know about research so that you can interpret if any outcomes come or any publications come. And whenever you are into a policy level meetings or facing a scientific group in front of you or opposite your desk, you will be able to explain them what is there in that research and what are the outcomes and how you are translating that research to your practice, that is bench to bedside. And for knowing that, these are the minimum things you must be aware of. Whenever we are doing research, you should have this in your background mind that it should be feasible. Feasible means whatever, suppose I'm telling like a rare syndrome, a rare disease condition, and I want to do research. Can I do a RCT? Yes or no?
Sure ma'am.
No. If it is a rare condition, can I do a RCT? Can we
Depending
do
upon the
RCT?
topic, we used to check it out, na ma'am.
Depending on the
Depending upon the clinic we used to select, that also depends whether we have to do RCT or not.
Yes.
जैसे मैम हम लोग डायबिटीज का कोई पेशेंट आया है हम लोग का क्लिनिक पे, तो हम लोग डायबिटीज क्लिनिक में जैसे डायबिटीज आपका एलोपैथी भी करता है,
Suppose,
आयुर्वेदिक कर रहा है, तो
yes,
उसको हम लोग कैसे उसको भी हम लोग आरसीटी में डाल सकते हैं। कुछ
right.
सैंपल को हम लोग भेजेंगे होम्योपैथी कर रहे हैं, कुछ सैंपल पेशेंट को भेजेंगे हम लोग एलोपैथी भेजेंगे, कुछ सैंपल पेशेंट को हम लोग भेजेंगे मैंने जो आयुर्वेद अदर्स है बा उधर हम लोग सैक्लक भी दे सकते हैं कुछ कुछ पेशेंट को, फैटम
Right.
जो हम लोग
लेकिन
प्लेसोबो है
आपने,
में दे
right,
सकते हैं। तो हम लोग उसको हम लोग क्लिनिकल टाइम में हम लोग उसको ब्लड टेस्ट करके हर 3 महीना बाद 1 महीने के अंदर अंदर हम देख सकते हैं उसका शुगर लेवल कितना है, इंसुलिन ले रहा है क्या नहीं, कितना है। तो हम लोग उसका भी रिपोर्ट बना सकते हैं। जहाँ हम लोग 100 पेशेंट आया है हम लोग के पास डायबिटीज में डीएम पेशेंट, उसको हम लोग ऐसे ऐसे 100 में 50 लोग को ये
okay.
कर रहा, 20 को ये किया, 10 को
Listen,
ऐसे
listen, listen, right. I agree with you. But you are talking of diabetes. I am talking of a rare disease condition like Cushing syndrome, like uh, Kawasaki disease, something like that. If those conditions are coming to you, can you do RCT?
मैम
No,
इसका
ma'am.
देखिए मैम कैसे कर सकते हैं, पॉसिबल नहीं है मेरे लिए।
That is what I'm telling. If you see the final criteria, that is feasible, interesting, novel, ethical and relevant. Feasible क्या है? आपका क्वेश्चन भी ठीक होना चाहिए, आपको सैंपल भी मिलना चाहिए, आपका एरिया भी ठीक होना चाहिए, देन इट विल बी feasible. Interesting क्या है? Regardless of your own personal motivation about a subject, it is important to check if your question corresponds to the more practical and broader interest. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया बोल रहा है कैंसर बढ़ रहा है, हम कैंसर छोड़ के और कुछ करेंगे, तो उसका रिजल्ट्स इट कैनॉट बी ट्रांसलेटेड, राइट? So this is an example. It should be novel. Answer to any existing gap in knowledge. Filling one of these gaps is important. और एथिकल भी होना चाहिए। एक कैंसर का मरीज है, एक डायबिटीज का मरीज है, व्हेन वी डोंट हैव वेरी एस्टेब्लिश्ड होम्योपैथिक मेडिसिन, एंड एथिकली जब हम सिर्फ उसको दवाई देते हैं, स्टैंडर्ड कर नहीं देते हैं, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द सिचुएशन, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द इंक्लूसिव क्राइटेरिया, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द पेशेंट पॉपुलेशन, अगर हम सही ढंग से नहीं जाएंगे देन इट विल बी अनएथिकल। एंड ऑल्सो इट शुड बी रिलीवेंट। रिलीवेंट कैन लीड टू real visible changes in the society. India में India is the epidemic of diabetes. India is the epidemic of NCDs. India is the epidemic of hypertension because of aging population. तो इसके ऊपर हम स्टडीज नहीं करेंगे, इनोवेटिवली अपने होम्योपैथिक मेडिसिन को एस्टेब्लिश नहीं करेंगे, तो देन देर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ डूइंग रिसर्च. So this is the final criteria which needs to be kept in mind when framing a research or whatever you want to do in your clinical practice, or you extend yourself to a research platform. Now coming to, if yes, Dr. Kingshu told, diabetes. When we're talking of diabetes, what all should be kept in mind? The patient population or the problem, the intervention. If we are giving a intervention, suppose homeopathy is the intervention here, placebo is the intervention here. So what are the various prognostic factors or exposures from which we can tell that yes, when this is given, the patient is improving. Now, what is the main alternative to compare with the intervention? That is comparison. Then outcomes. Would you like to measure? What are the outcomes would you like to measure? Suppose diabetes है, पेशेंट का आप क्या ऐसे देखेंगे तो पता चलेगा कि हाँ ये आपके होम्योपैथी के द्वारा ठीक हो रहा है? What type of outcome measures you are going to access?
Comparing with the control group, ma'am.
Control group से compare करेंगे, but what is that which you want to measure?
Scales. Audible, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, you are audible,
यस
but
नवन ऑडिबल।
so
इन्वेस्टिगेशंस मैम, जो हम एथिकल का टाइम देते ना मैम, इन्वेस्टिगेशंस ये फलाना कंपेयर करने वाला है ग्रुप्स में, जो दवाई देने वाला है, नहीं तो कुछ स्केल्स का लाइक सेलेक्ट करने वाला है, लाइक
हम्म,
समथिंग वी
तो
यूज टू व्हिच वी विल बी गिविंग इन इंक्लूजन क्राइटेरिया लाइक दैट.
okay, सो हम लोग देखते हैं कि जैसे हम क्लिनिक में भी क्या करते हो आप, एक डायबिटीज पेशेंट कब देखते हो आप, होम्योपैथी दवाई दे दिए, देने के बाद व्हाट आउटकम पैरामीटर्स यू मेजर, क्या बोलेगा कि हमारे होम्योपैथी
H1B
मेडिसिन।
H1B चेक करते, पीपी देखते हैं, फास्टिंग
यस,
देखते हैं,
फास्टिंग देखते हैं, HbA1c देखते हैं, फिर
HbA1C
उसके
देखना है।
वाइटल पैरामीटर्स भी देखते हैं और उसके सिम्टम्स भी देखते हैं। तो इन
यस
सब
मैम,
को हम
सिम्टम
जज
बहुत
करते हैं
सिंपल
कि पेशेंट ठीक हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, राइट। सो ये सबको आउटकम मेजर्स, दिस इज द पीको क्राइटेरिया। जब भी आप एक रिसर्च पेपर पढ़ते हो, इस एंगल से आपको पढ़ना चाहिए। पीको दैट इज पेशेंट किस तरह के पॉपुलेशन को लिया, किस तरीके के इंटरवेंशन दिए। सपोज एक स्टडी हुआ है जिसमें इंसुलिन हम दे के उन्होंने बोला कि डायबिटीज और प्री डायबिटीज को हम मैनेज कर पाते हैं आफ्टर वी आर गिविंग द मेडिसिन फॉर अ पीरियड ऑफ 6 मंथ्स। सो यस, जब आप इंसुलिन हम देते हो, यू कैन कॉन्फिडेंटली टेल टू ए पॉलिसी मेकर, देखो ये हमने इंसुलिन दिया था, ये ट्रायल किया था और इसका आउटकम ये है। सो इंसुलिन कैन बी गिवन एज अ रूटीन। लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल आई विल टेल यू, in COVID-19 arsenic was given as a prophylactic, which is based on purely information at that point of time on Chinese papers, on that point, whatever it is. But after that, what happened? CCS took a very large scale study across the country, in Delhi specifically, to see whether really arsenic is effective, how much protection it gives to COVID-19 when compared to a control arm. So the protection rate was 70 to 80%, which is very similar to the vaccine. So in this way, this gives a confidence, this gives a definite results, uh, that yes, this is the homeopathic medicine and this is protective. Like chikungunya, we did a study with Bryonia. Dengue, we did a study with Eupatorium. So with any control arm, this will help to establish homeopathy in a right way, in a right direction. No doubt, every research has its own limitations and strengths. So these all have to be described in the paper. So these are the final criteria plus PICO that should be kept in mind when you draft a research question. This is the same thing which I have told earlier. Now, population of interest, exposure, and subject is exposed to an intervention. They can be with outcome, like unexposed or controls, with exposure or outcome. So these are the various designs which we use to establish a trial. So in the trial nutshell, trials, doing a trial is not a everyone's cup of tea. It needs very passion, dedication, dynamic involvement, and dedicated work. So you need to develop a protocol, investigator section, selection of the investigator, approval process. You have to recruit the patients, you have to collect the data, you do the statistical analysis. In this way, the entire process is being done. It takes around 3 to 4 years for any trial to be successfully done, uh, depending on the time of how much intervention you are giving. But usually, a trial takes 2 to 3 years. So this is the ICMJ accepts registration in any registry, that is primary register of the WHO TRP. This is also mandatory for doing any trial. Now, as I told earlier, because we are speaking of clinical trials, this is some of the examples I want to showcase here. How CCH has done the clinical trials in very important health conditions in the country. This is a trial which we did for effectiveness of homeopathic medicine is add-on to institutional management protocol for acute encephalitis syndrome in children in open label randomized placebo-controlled trial. So this was done at Gorakhpur, where 612 children were analyzed. Homeopathy 304 patients, control 308 patients. It was done in a peak in the year 2012 to 2015, and the primary outcomes were Glasgow Outcome Scale, which has again rating of 5: death, vegetative state, severe, moderate, improvement. Likewise, it is being graded. And it was shown that when homeopathy is given to the standard treatment, that is institutional management protocol, which is done in the ICU or pediatric ward of BRD Medical College, the death was reduced by almost 15%. in the homeopathy group compared to 30% almost in the control arm. So in this way, we established that homeopathy is effective in managing the acute encephalitis syndrome in children, which is a dreaded one and taking last toll of death in children. This is another study which was not done by CCRH, but it was done uh, by Fras et al. That is adjunctive homeopathic treatment in patients with severe sepsis. Why I am emphasizing on these type of trials, because these all have importance in an integrative care setup. Because now Government of India through its national health policy is emphasizing on integrating AYUSH in various platforms like Ayushman Bharat, like Arogya Mandir, like NAM, and in West Bengal also government is implementing NPCDC's program again. So based on that, if we think so, this type of studies give a confidence, give a roadmap that homeopathy is effective not only in day-to-day illnesses but also severe conditions like sepsis, like acute encephalitis syndrome, and this helps to boost the morale and also the confidence of homeopaths who, at the ground level, like clinical practitioners or like you, at ground level, treat the patients day in and day out and have to face the challenges of treating this type of serious illnesses. So, adjunctive homeopathic treatment in patients with severe sepsis, a randomized double blind placebo controlled trial in an intensive care unit. In this, the mortality in patients with severe uh, sepsis remains high despite the development of several therapeutic strategies. So, Michael Fras et al. They enrolled 70 patients with severe sepsis, received homeopathic treatment 35-35 in the placebo group and in the homeopathy group. 5 globules in a potency of 200 C were given at 12 hours interval during the stay at the intensive care unit. Survival after 30 and 180 days was recorded. 3 patients were excluded from the analysis because of incomplete data, and they scored and assessed the patient through Apache score, sign of sepsis, number of organ failures, need for mechanical ventilation, need for vasopressors or venous hemofiltration, and laboratory parameters. They have seen that they were not significantly different between the groups. On day 30, there was non-statistically significant trend of survival in favor of homeopathy. On day 180 means almost 6 months, survival was statistically significantly higher with Verum homeopathy, and no adverse effects were observed. So the research team suggested that homeopathy treatment may be an useful additional therapeutic measure with long-term benefit for severely septic patients admitted to the intensive care unit. A constraint to wider public application of this method is the limited number of trained homeopaths. But because as a trained homeopath, we usually have less scope to see these type of patients. But whenever a case comes to you, if this type of studies are there in your mind, you can definitely go through these papers and build confidence in yourself and try these medicines, how they have prescribed, because this here the homeopathy was prescribed in an individual manner on case to case basis, and you can record yourself the cases and contribute to the evidence generation in homeopathy. This is another study, efficacy of individualized homeopathy as adjunct to standard of care of COVID-19, a randomized single-blind placebo-controlled trial. This study was done at Chirayu Hospital in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, where they have treated around 300 patients who were randomized to allopathy, standard care plus homeopathy, and standard care plus placebo. And they have analyzed that homeopathy, the patients who were given homeopathy where could be discharged from the ICU at earlier than the patients who were given only a placebo and standard care. Am I audible to all of you? Hello?
Yes, madam. You're audible, madam.
जी मैम आप ऑडिबल हो मैम.
Because when there is silent, I feel I'm talking to myself or I'm talking to the audience. Okay.
Yes
So
ma'am.
here also they observed that the clinical recovery was 2 days earlier than that in the standard care plus placebo group. So why not try homeopathy in an integrative setup, in a hospital setup? Because these are the evidences which strengthens the homeopathy system of medicine. So this is another trial which was done at Mumbai Hospital, the same COVID-19 Mumbai Hospital, and they have shown that after giving homeopathy, there was the oxygen free days were earlier in the homeopathy group. That is only they took only NAT. The oxygen has to be given for 10 days in homeopathy group, whereas it was almost 15 days. Matlab the oxygen could be free 5 days earlier in the homeopathy aided group, because during COVID-19 there was hue and cry for oxygen cylinders, for oxygen, and the people were not getting oxygen. The cost of care was very high. So, if with adding homeopathy, if the oxygen free days 5 days earlier, it is like a heaven to the patients or to the patient attendants or to the family. So, this is another study which oxygen supplementation, which established that the oxygen supplementation was 5 days earlier stopped in the homeopathy added group. Likewise, there were other parameters which also reduced during the course of homeopathic treatment, like C reactive protein, NLR to some extent, and ILS6 to some extent. This is what I was talking of, that is efficacy of homeopathy arsenic album in the prevention of COVID-19 in individuals residing in containment areas. So I think time is there is still time, or I should stop, or please let me know.
Please continue ma'am, no issue ma'am.
Okay. So the efficacy of arsenic album 30C in the prevention of COVID-19 in the individuals residing in containment areas, which I was telling you. So here also there was a control arm, there was a medicine arm. Patients were in the control arm, they were given only health behavioral changes, where in the medicine arm, patients were given homeopathy during the peak COVID-19. And they have shown that the overall COVID-19 infection was less in the homeopathy group, whereas it was high in the placebo group. Placebo group, or it is not placebo actually, it is a control arm where health behavior was given to them. So the protective effect was 80%. Apart from that, the symptoms also were less. Whoever infected with COVID-19, in those cases, if we compare, the symptom was less, like sore throat was less, runny nose was less, cough was less or no in the control medicine group compared to the control arm. So this is all about briefly which I wanted to impress upon you, that how homeopathy is beneficial, either add-on or as a standalone homeopathy, either in prophylactic way or in a treatment way. So coming to another area, that is systematic reviews, clinical trials of homeopathy, to establish whether there is evidence of the efficacy of homeopathy for controlled trials in humans. So Clingan et al., they have taken, it was a study or a paper published in the year 1991 in British Medical Journal. This all why it is required, because though we are clinicians, we need to understand, we need to have some broad idea about this, because it enhances your knowledge, it enhances your confidence, it enhances when you talk to a person who is having similar knowledge but having more research evidence. So this information is essential. I know most of might have come across this paper. How many of you know about this paper? Can you quickly tell me? Have anyone gone through this paper? Can anyone answer?
Um, Ma'am, I think this is regarding the systemic review, right, ma'am?
Yes. So if anyone has gone through this paper, they must go through. It includes 107 control trials, which was assessed for methodological quality. 14 trials used classical homeopathy, whereas 58 trials single homeopathic treatment to patients with comparable conventional diagnosis. 26 trials tested combination of several homeopathic remedies and 9 trials tested homeopathy. So after pooling the information, all the things, they have told that at the moment the evidence of clinical trials is positive, but not sufficient to draw definite conclusions because most trials are of low methodological quality and because of the unroll of publication bias. This indicates that there is a legitimate case of further evolution of homeopathy, but only by means of performed trials. That's why there is importance of clinical trials or RCTs in a well-designed manner, which is important to gather more evidence to establish the plausibility of homeopathic medicines in clinical setup. So these are the trials which I was talking of, which is given in this paper. If I talk of the various conditions like hypertension, stroke, flushing, venous perfusion, bleeding, hypertension, influenza, cough. So these are various conditions on which the study was undertaken and the pooling of data is shown. If I come to other systematic reviews recently, like individualized homeopathy by Math et al., non-individualized homeopathy, individual homeopathy with controls other than the placebo. See, the control can be two types. That is a placebo control, it can be a other active control like standard care. So these are all different types of controls. If we see all these things, there are three types of systematic reviews, all inform that homeopathy has some beneficial effect for non-IHT and statistically significantly differ from the placebo. This is for the non-IHT. Whereas the IST also says that it has some beneficial effect. Homeopathy has beneficial effect than placebo. Whereas IHT, that is individualized homeopathic treatment versus control other than placebo. Here they say that due to the low quality, the small number and the heterogeneity of studies, the current data preclude a decisive conclusion about the comparative effectiveness of individualized homeopathy. So there is somewhat different conclusions based on type of intervention and type of controls being given here. So every systematic review poses and gives direction for a gathering more evidence to establish and re-establish homeopathy. This is broad systematic reviews. Now I'm coming to specific conditions like dentistry, diabetes and obesity, urological disorders, upper respiratory tract infections, bronchial asthma. So here, if you see the wide aspect and if you see the red lines, they also suggest that you need to have more trials in a very different manner, in a ideal situation or in a randomized control setup, double blind setup, so that the evidence can be generated in a better manner. Because if you see the red lines, they say there are so many loopholes, gaps in terms of comparison, in terms of quality, in terms of quantity. So the evidence remains inconclusive or it is near conclusive. So based on this, suppose for diabetes, they're telling there is no evidence, but we have some evidence in diabetes, but well-designed trials are still to come up. So these are some of the positive results, like add-on individualized complex, semi-individualized, adequate sample size, good statistical rigor. If we see there are so many publications I am showing here, like non-small lung cell cancer. No doubt this is a very good trial being done and published in the year 2020. But yes, the saddest part is this trial has been retracted recently in the last week because the journal said the studies, the results are somewhat not appealing to them, that there is methodological flaws, so they have retracted the article. Likewise, effectiveness of homeopathic complex medicine in infantile colic. It is a complex medicine. It is not an individual medicine, it is a complex medicine where 3 to 4 medicines are given mixed like chamomilla, chinna, colocynth, lac defloratum, and magnesium chloratum were given to infants with colic, and they saw that the difference in the total comprehension of the symptom score between baseline at 8 and estimated from the ANCOVA model were found to be highly significant, favoring homeopathy, like ADST trial, which is also effective, like acute encephalitis, which I have told just now. So these, like semi-individualized homeopathy add-on versus usual care only for premenstrual disorders, like Melissa officinalis combined or not with Phytolacca decandra in the treatment of possible strep bruxism in children. So there are various conditions, and the homeopathy is given as an add-on or standalone, establishes homeopathy being with positive results. These are the inconclusive based on the previous systematic reviews. So there are different types of results coming up uh, in homeopathic treatment. So that's why we need to be more vigilant in prescription. We need to showcase more, strengthen our methodology, strengthen our prescription, strengthen our documentation, so that we can contribute meaningfully to the evidence generation of towards homeopathic medicines. This is a recent meta-analysis by Hamre et al., where they have did a systematic review of meta-analysis. Like, with what do you mean by systematic review of meta-analysis? Because in meta-analysis, what we do, we pool a group of RCTs, similar RCTs, with a predefined inclusion and exclusion criteria. But this systematic review is based on the pooled meta-analysis, and they saw that 6 meta-analyses were included, covering individualized homeopathy, non-individualized homeopathy, and all homeopathy types, and they showed that precludes that homeopathy is effective. Precludes homeopathy is effective. Effect estimates for all trials in each meta-analysis show a significant positive effect of homeopathy compared to placebo. So yes, this is briefly about the clinical trials, the systematic reviews. But here I want to emphasize thing that if we don't do research, we do a research waste, which we may not publish. There are unbiased papers, and usually this is a published information in Lancet, that annual waste in research is estimated to be 85% because of avoidable design flaws, non-publication, unusable reports, and the global total. It is not for homeopathy, but in general, when we speak of all research, any type of research, so we need to or rethink when we are designing a research study based on keeping in mind these 5 stages of waste in research. Coming to overall Indian scenario of homeopathy, we all know we have maximum institutionally qualified homeopathic practitioners. We have uh, government patronage, government support. We have several primary healthcare centers, institutions who provide homeopathic education. We have government support. In spite of that, scientific evidence needs to be generated more and more. Therefore, this is so we all need to work hand in hand to support, to collect more evidence for homeopathy, realizing the need of the hour and awareness to seminars and conferences. Many educational institutions have put in efforts to address the gap between education and research. So, this is a time we should work hand in hand, because if we see the publications, we have very less publications. This is way back 2018. No doubt several things have been added up, but still we need to work. We need to be physician, and also we need to be a scientist like Hahnemann, because Hahnemann was a physician scientist. He worked, he discovered homeopathy, he contributed to the science, he also experimented, and he thrived. He contributed to clinical experiences through cases, and he had his scientific bent of mind, which he gathered, focused continuously for the cause of homeopathy, for the cause of the profession. Similarly, uh, as Hahnemann was a physician scientist, similarly we should look upon ourselves as a physician scientist, work for the cause of homeopathy in a very systematic manner. So, you want to be a physician scientist? May answer yes, no, or not interested.
Definitely, ma'am. That's the motto of the homeopathy growth also, ultimately.
Yes. So, you want to be a physician scientist? So, for that, you need to be very much devoted to your substantial amount of the professional time to both clinical care and research. Consequently, physician scientists have the unique ability to identify relevant clinical problems that can be translated into adequate research questions and designs. At the same time, these physician scientists take leading role in translation and implementation of research outcomes into clinical practice. Therefore, physician scientists are believed to be a key in bridging the gap between science and clinical practice, thus for making advancements within the medical domain. So this is the year-wise physicians which we have. But how to become a physician scientist? The question of how to train and retain the physician scientist workforce is much discussed for the past few decades. One of the mentioned possible solutions is to engage medical students in research during early phase of medical training. Furthermore, in general, engaging medical students in research is needed to deliver graduates with an academic mindset who are able to use research in clinical decision making, thereby practicing evidence informed medicine. The importance of developing academic skills has been underlined by many medical educational frameworks and accrediting bodies. To this end, many research related courses within or on top of the curriculum are emerging within the medical school. These research related courses and programs could contribute to students' ability to use research in future daily clinical practice and may help to enhance their motivation to engage in research and in turn to pursue a research oriented career. So, to become a physician scientist, what are the points to take care? Define your specialty of interest. Be aware of the scope of your research project, including its length. It will take months or years to complete. Find a mentor. Research your potential research advisor. Define your role in and expectations out of project. Contact clinicians and researchers among yourselves. develop your academic writing skills, because what we see as a editor, as an associate editor, or as a researcher, and also a uh, writer, we have many skills. We have very good clinical and patient output. We have very good experience, but we don't document it. Here lies the gap between Western researchers and Indian clinicians and Western clinicians. Western clinicians, what they do, if they get success in one case also, they try to document it for the profession at large. But in India, we are very busy seeing patients, but we don't devote time to publish what we have seen, what we have experienced. If we try to devote at least one case, a very good case, a rare case, not a common case, but a rare case systematically documented, we can also equally contribute. We need not be a researcher working in CCRH. We need to be a researcher working as a clinician at the ground level. So, in this way, collectively, we can contribute to the research and to the evidence generation in homeopathy. For that, we need to devote some time to improve our academics, to improve our knowledge in publication, writing skills, so that together with 3 lakh homeopaths, we can contribute more from India, represent India, and make homeopathy progress in the world. So, the takeaway message are: they were an important component in the evolution of trial. The judgments made by influential 19th century opponents of homeopathy, ostensibly based on evidence from clinical trials, still color debate today. Valid trials of homeopathy in clinical context, dramatically different from those found in the present day, may increase our understanding of therapy's potential and indicate areas of future research. So this is another information. Everyone can go through this site for different guidelines which can be followed. Writing case reports, for writing, doing some research, or getting some funds from organizations. Uh, if you want to have a true research or in collaboration. So these are different guidelines which are cited here, like consort guidelines for publishing RCTs, Prisma guidelines for publishing systematic reviews, Spirit guidelines for writing a study protocol, care guidelines or home case guidelines for writing case reports. So these are different guidelines. One must, or who is interested can go through these guidelines, improve their knowledge more and more, because this only platform, and today with 45 minutes, it may not be possible for to explain, to make understand each and everything. But I would request all of you to go through these guidelines and make your knowledge enhanced for contributing something meaningful to the cause of homeopathy. This is the spirit guidelines for writing a protocol, consort for reporting. These are the various extensions of consort. This is the red hot guidelines for reporting specifically homeopathic RCTs. So this is a journal of IGRH, and everyone is welcome, and I request everyone who have good cases, they can submit to IGRS for publishing and make others know your success stories. This is the website of CCRH. This is the CCRH e-library, where we have all documentation here uh, being published by CCRH. This is the Homeopathic Information Document Center, HiDoc. It is free. Anyone can go through this, see the grey literature, any other information required, like Archive of Homeopathy. This is also rare literature on homeopathy. You can find rare literature in homeopathy, and this is free. You can go through, subscribe, and enhance your knowledge. This is Homeopathy Clinical Case Repository. It is a software being developed by CCRH for submitting your good cases in a systematic manner, where you can collect, accumulate your case reports one by one, and later you can also publish whenever you find it feasible for you. So thank you for patient listening. One more thing here I have missed, I would like to inform. that CCH also developed standard treatment guidelines, and these guidelines are there in the website. And also we have developed a software STGH app. If you go to Google Play Store, you can type the STGH app, you can scan the QR code. We have subscription yearly. The details are there in the STGH app site. I would request everyone to go to that app, and it will be a very good desktop uh, guide for you when you are dealing with the patients any disease condition, because in this STGH app we have covered almost 66 clinical conditions, more 12 to be added, and this will help you to quickly go through the disease condition, how to assess them, what all medicines can be amenable, what all research has been done is all covered in this STGH app. So I would like to showcase you also that STGH app here. Just give me a second, which I will be able to show you. I'm just closing this PPT and I will show you the app.
Sure, ma'am.
So are you interested to see the app?
Definitely, ma'am.
So this is the Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the homeo treatment guidelines, which is there. You can install. There is a process how to log in, how to subscribe, how to process again, and this will help you to enhance your clinical practice more definitely and appropriately. And this is a video which I would also like to show you. This is both in Android and iPhone also. So this is our website. If you can see this, so I'm unable to show you that app. Otherwise, you can search and see it. Yeah, please watch this one. This is of only 1 minute. I hope you have all listened to this.
Ma'am, actually, audio is not there, ma'am. Only just we have seen the video.
Okay, I could hear, but you couldn't hear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine, no issue. So you can go through that searching from the YouTube of CCRH, and you get yourself informed about it. And anyone interested, they can download the app, they can register themselves, and take the benefits of the standard treatment guidelines published by CCRH. Thank you so
Yes,
much for giving this opportunity to me and to share the views and clinical trials in homeopathy.
definitely, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. It was quite enlightening that in detail you have explained how to do the research right from everything, how we have proceed also. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you all the participants, and we'll be right back. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Looking forward for many more sessions, ma'am. Thank you.